It's a segment of the show we call Coronavirus Q&A, where we put some of our questions and some of your questions to local experts. And we are pleased to be joined by San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg, as we are on most Wednesdays. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us right after the briefing today. You talked a lot about the resiliency plan. We've done a lot of coverage on the resiliency plan and the different facets of it. What is the biggest thing that you want people to know about this plan?
Well, that we have to recognize that the post-COVID world, in particular the post-COVID economy, is not and should not look like the pre-COVID-19 economy. The nature of our industries are going to change as a result of the response of this virus and what it's taught us about telework and commuting and the different skills that are necessary. And we want our people, taking a people-first approach to this recovery, we want our community to be able to thrive in that post-COVID world.
Are you concerned that the economy is going to look differently in San Antonio? You know, maybe not as tourist-based, for one example.
Well, it's certain that the hospitality and tourism industry that has been, one of the hardest hit will be a slower recovery because travel simply isn't going to happen overnight. So that is going to take some time to come on. But it's not so much that we're concerned that it's going to look different. It's that we know it's going to look different. And so our focus needs to be, how can we cope? How can we adapt and make sure that our communities, not just San Antonio, certainly that's our focus here, but how communities can thrive in that environment.
Mr. Mayor, yesterday during the briefing, you and the judge mentioned this a little bit, and you talked about how San Antonio is doing better than a lot of other metro cities in our state. What do you attribute that to? Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of factors, and I'm sure books will be written about this, but I think one of the factors was that we were very early on engaged in an evacuation mission with Joint Base San Antonio Defense Department as well as HHS, in which we were receiving evacuees from the hard-hit COVID-19 areas. That got us to a heightened level of alert, which certainly was enhanced by the fact that the CDC released into our community someone who was COVID positive but was awaiting their test results. So that got everyone's attention, and we were able to proceed from there. But also, this is one of the communities that is most ready, most able on an ongoing basis every year to respond to disasters and emergencies. This is what we do. We do it very well. That's, of course, aided by the fact that this is a military city. This is a city that recognizes the value of public service and also the importance of us working together, a teamwork environment, in order to cope with some very serious challenges. That's our nature, and we work very well together. We always say that teamwork is San Antonio's secret formula. That's clearly on display in a pandemic response. It's about us understanding the responsibility that we have to each other in our livelihoods and our health and safety, and we've been working together. That's what San Antonians do. We're a cooperative, teamwork, compassionate community.
Yeah, we've seen it over and over again, whether it's hurricane relief, whether it's homelessness, whether it's, something like this pandemic. We're going to have more with Mayor Ron Nirenberg after this break.
We are back with Mayor Ron Nirenberg, who is joining us live from City Hall. And Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you about the orders that you extended yesterday. I noticed on social media there's a little bit of confusion. These are not stay-at-home orders. Can you clarify for our viewers what these orders entail?
Well, they're the same framework as they have been for the last month and a half, which is that unless you're engaged in one of the covered services activities that's outlined by the governor, we're supposed to be doing what we can to limit our exposure to others, limiting public gatherings and so forth. So that's the same framework where the things that are permitted under the governor's order are expressly and explicitly stated. So that's the area that we're in. The confusion is resulting from the fact that there's just a lot more activity going on, a lot more permitted activities. But keep in mind, the virus is still present. It's with us. We've been building up capacity to deal with it, to isolate it, to make sure that we know where it is. The testing has increased. But we still have to work together to make sure that we're containing it. So the effort still goes on. We're opening more things up. The governor's defined what those are, but we still need to do our part. And that's I think the confusion is that people are seeing a lot more activities, but we are still fighting this virus.
Mm-hmm.
The next question I have, maybe in part because it's, high 90s, mid 90s, and maybe in part because I have kids at home. What's the latest with the pools reopening, the city pools?
It's a great question. So the governor's order does permit pools to be opened. Those facilities, public facilities that are local government managed facilities, though, they are given to the local governments to determine the timetable for opening. So one of the challenges with the phased opening of the Open Texas orders, which is what the governor has outlined, is that we're moving very quickly, and we need to be watching the data to make sure that each step of the opening doesn't create a spike in cases. So we're working on a plan right now to open the pools, but we're watching the data on each stage of opening before we actually open the pools to make sure that we don't have a spike in cases. The good news is, I foresee that our pools will be open as we get a little bit closer into the summer, the heat of the summer, but we're not quite there yet. We're working on that as we speak.
All right. Mayor Ron Nirenberg joining us live from City Hall. Thank you so much for your time.
We'll see you tonight at 9, and of course, we'll replay that interview on the Night Beat. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.